Hey, Magdi.
Hello, Eric.
Hey, we're brothers in beards now. I saw your email about Robert Saltzman. Let me move here a little bit out of the sun. Um, yeah, it was really interesting. I watched and uh, do you mind if I just share some observations?
No, please go ahead.
Um, I watched an interview with him and Jim Newman, the non-dualist, who's some consider kind of the extreme neo-Advaita, that there's no person and so forth. And it was very revealing because I was kind of familiar with Saltzman, but they had such contrasting views. Saltzman is very much like down to earth. He's a background in psychiatry and photography, and emphasizing wanting to honor the person and their struggles and suffering, and Jim Newman just not recognizing any person at all. Like total opposites. Um, but it also spurred some. Francis always emphasized it's about happiness, and I get his point. I think the hang up with many is that there's so many ideas about what that means already that you have to do a lot of explaining by what you mean by happiness. So it's almost like, why use the word? So that's one thing.
Any explanation about happiness complicates is a complication in the mind level. You don't need to explain happiness. We all know happiness. Explanations about
Well,
happiness.
yeah, but I mean, in
Uh,
terms of it's like a kind of a redefinition of words, which Francis does a lot. That's what makes
Happiness
it
is the
complicated.
absence of unhappiness.
Yeah, but that's a tautology. Doesn't
It's
really.
quite simple. When there
It's
is no sense of lack, no worries, no concern, no psychological issues, no what's going to happen to me. In the absence of the clouds, the wide open sky shines brilliantly. Anyways, it's a
Yeah,
metaphor.
I understand. And that's the beauty of non-duality. It's taking the negative approach and saying what's not, when all of that stuff is not in the way, you're, whatever word you want to use, consciousness, reality, happiness shines forth. I was just talking about the communication difficulty because I talk to a lot of different people. So I'm always, I, on one hand, struggling, but also fascinated by these different ways of expressing things. Um,
The simplest expression is the most understandable.
and about experience, I think that is so key, and um, that and that is the most powerful expression, is to base it in experience. Otherwise, you're just lost um, in words and concepts.
Yeah, it's only when we are sharing our experience that it's genuine. Sharing concepts, beliefs, and ideas is not,
Yeah,
it's not something that really speaks to me.
yeah, it has to be from experience. Um, so here's an experience. Yesterday, I had this moment of anxiety, um, from some. I think it was triggered by some medication I took. It was like affecting the mind body, and it came on so suddenly. And so I came outside and sat, and the here's what helped me was this. It's like this very sharp sword, the distinction between mind and consciousness. Simply reminding myself that all of this is mind, and it's hard to describe, but it's like this experience of more and more, you trust in life and love, and after the fact, I could say, it resonates with. There's that beautiful sentence from the Course in Miracles that, which nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists.
Right.
For years, I was involved with this spiritual psychology movement, and they were always pointing to thought, the power of thought, and that's the sharp wedge to pointing people that the function of the content. But they had such trouble pointing to people to the fact that this is just content. They were trying to point people to. They had talked about universal consciousness too, but they had such a hard time defining consciousness. And so people would struggle with their thoughts or trying to control thoughts, or just they kept talking about the fact of thought, and that's all it is. It's all thought.
There is no power to that which appears and disappears, because it is temporary. Power
so it's
belongs to that which neither appears nor disappears.
So the word that Francis uses,
reality which perceives.
Yeah. What changes? So that's what I reminded myself in this episode of anxiety. Is it's just all of this is just changing appearances, and it went away very quickly. It was like suddenly I was back down on the ground.
That's an important reminder. It's a good reminder you're using, Eric.
So there's that language. It's like, okay, that's mind or mentation. They call it thought. The Francis school calls it mind or mentation. But it's all the same thing. It's all just movement and appearances. Anyway, that's all I wanted to share. We could have a longer talk about Saltzman, but I think it's kind of, I would just want to keep it, relevant to whoever is attending.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I have a question. I just happened to go to a dentist yesterday, and while the dentist was performing his work on my tooth, so I could feel the tightness in the body. Though I just kept on reminding myself this is not who I am, and I wanted to feel the expansion, but somehow the pain which I was feeling during the treatment, it was so intense that it just made me feel like I'm so much like a body. There was so much tightness in the body, and the feeling of expansion had just gone. So I was wondering, when such pain appears in the body, it is so easy to confuse, I'm a body and not this open space of awareness. So I just wanted to know your thoughts about that.
Yes. So it's important to understand that the body expresses itself in a certain way and relates to the world in a certain way. The body experiences hunger, tiredness, headache when there is a headache. So when the body needs to be fed, it's going to express hunger. On the screen of awareness, there is going to be hunger. And if there is no food around, then that image is going to become more and more powerful. And the longer you go without feeding the body, the louder and the louder the image on the screen is going to be. Hunger, hunger, feed me, feed the body, feed the body. In the case of a small headache, there will be on the screen of awareness a certain gray image on the screen. When the headache gets stronger, then that gray becomes a darker gray. And when the headache becomes very intense and you are not taking the medicine or curing the headache or attending to the headache, then that image on the screen is going to be, take the whole screen, is going to be very dark, maybe black even, or red. This is all at the body-mind level. It has nothing to do with consciousness. It has nothing to do with freedom. It has nothing to do with peace and love. It has to do with the body. When you go to the dentist and there is a toothache and there is a drilling and there is injection, and I don't like going to the dentist, but so at that time, what is on the screen is the body, the loud noise of the drilling, the injection, and you're laying down, your mouth is open and you're having a hard time to swallow or to breathe. This has nothing to do with understanding about your true nature. It has to do with the body. So in those times, we hope that we have a good dentist and that the experience is not going to last too long. And hopefully we won't lose too many teeth. So we should confuse the peace of being, which is not a body-mind experience, with any specific body-mind experience. So that our true nature is not a happy jumping up and down. Everything is rosy and pink. No. Sometimes we have children. We have to wake up in the middle of the night they are little children, to take care of them. The body may be sleepy, but we have to make sure that children are changed and taken care of. Sometimes we may have some work situations that are challenging to the body-mind. And so we have to tend to, the food, shelter, and clothing. These sorts of activities that have to do with the world, body, mind, sometimes they are challenging. Sometimes they are less challenging. But it has nothing to do with the peace of being. Being, the experience of our true nature, is a peace, not a peaceful world, not a peaceful body, not a peaceful mind, but peace itself. Peace. So there can be relationship issues, maybe in your life. And we're responding, we're dealing with these issues. But we are not dealing from a place where we have to defend ourselves, justify ourselves, protect our ego. No, we deal with the situation as it presents itself in the moment from a place of understanding, exploration, interest in everybody's welfare, interest in resolving the situation, with interest in having an outcome that's best possible for everybody, including ourselves. There can be challenging situations in the body. There can be health issues, for example, the body. But these health issues and situations are for the body, they're not for you. They're not for consciousness. But they can be challenging. The body may require a prolonged care, we have quite some expenses, but we deal with these issues without the need to identify as I am the body. No, the body is there. You are the manager of the body. You take care of the body. You do the best you can with the body, with whatever success the situation allows you. You take care of the body like you take care of your car that may have a need for some maintenance, some repair. We are not identified with the body. We're not identified with the car. But there can be some physical pain that we may experience, for example, in the body, depending on the situation. And the physical pain, we do our best to alleviate it, to soften it, to bring it to an end as best we can, as soon as possible, without any psychological entity, without introducing a sense of personal threat. There is no threat to consciousness. We don't need to identify, because when we identify, then we experience a personal threat. Our happiness becomes subject to the conditions of the body or to the condition of the world. That's the result of identification. We are that presence. We are already this aware presence, which by its very nature is peace. By its very nature. Presence is not personal. It's not, doesn't belong to anybody. There's nobody who owns being or who owns presence, who owns consciousness. That's a mistaken view. Consciousness, awareness, presence, being is. It's not a phenomenon that appears and disappears. What appears and disappears are thoughts and sensations, perceptions. like clouds in the sky, different shapes, different forms. The sky is not bothered by the clouds. It's not trying to get rid of the clouds or improve the clouds or accumulate the beautiful clouds and get rid of the ugly clouds. The wide open sky is the peace. Awareness, the reality of I, that which perceives right now, is this peace, which we refer to as I. And we don't need to diminish this I into a container. We don't need to identify I as consciousness into a male body, female body, or person, some conceptual entity. There is no need to do that. In fact, doing that, identifying awareness with any object, is unhappy. It serves no purpose, and it's not happy. It's limiting. So whenever we notice that we are doing that, we are reminded via our understanding that we don't need to do that. It's not necessary. And it's unhappy. It separates consciousness, creates the impression of a separate consciousness. In fact, it does not separate consciousness. The impression is that consciousness now is limited, that I am limited, subject to conditions, subject to time and space. So there was a long answer to your question. Yes, it's not a problem to feel contracted in the dentist chair. It helps to relax. I find maybe if you can somehow breathe from your nose, it's difficult when they're working, the dentist is working, but there is a way where you can sort of like relax your body, relax your belly. Sometimes we have contraction in the belly or in the chest. Relax. Hopefully it doesn't last too long.
Thank you so much. It was very useful.
I remember once I was flying. I forgot, somewhere in the United States. I was flying, and there was quite a turbulence, quite a bit of turbulence, more than usual during the arriving to the flight, to the landing, and the plane was, and I experienced this contraction, in the body. Tightened the seatbelt, made sure. And later I was sharing with Francis this experience, and he was very, very kind to remind me that this is perfectly normal for the body, who is most comfortable walking on the earth, the feet well planted on the earth. Is quite normal for when it's up in the air and it's being jolted in all sorts of direction to contract in order to prepare itself in case there is anything that happens, to at least the blood is drawn to the organs. In case there is any wound, the bleeding will be less dramatic. It's a similar way, a similar thing. The body has its way of, but self-preservation and safeguarding the body, safeguarding itself the best it can.
Well, I'm just confused, and it bothers me at times because I get confused when there's a speaking of, not identifying with the body or not identifying with body mind and all the other stuff and the angst and the this and the that and whatever suffering is supposed to be, the psychological and stuff like that. Because, and I'm glad you said, an experience of like in the flying in the plane or even the anxiety or whatever, those things come up. A lot of times I hear from other people sometimes is this, but you're not the body, you're not the mind, and I just think, but the body does that, I mean, the body is, as you mentioned, the body is doing its work because the body is threatened, because it's temporary and it's threatened. It has its own design, and that's what it's designed to do. And so that's there. It's almost as if like, oh, no, you're not supposed to have that. Or even if you have that, you're supposed to know that you're just the body and the mind, or you're supposed to be in some place that is established, that it shouldn't matter, but it does matter to the body and the mind. And if we say we're going to take care of the body and the mind, or you go, okay, well, maybe tell the dentist, I'm having a lot of anxiety right now. Is there a way we can, maybe take the clamp that's opening the mouth and loosen it a little bit, and so that I'm not hurting as much or something. And that's a way of taking care of oneself, at least trying to do that. But is that identifying with the body? Well, in a way it is. It's saying, I want this to happen if possible. So it gets a little bit confusing what identification really means. So maybe you can go over that a little bit for me.
The confusion is about the I. When you say I, what are you referring to?
Yeah. Well, I think when I say, hey, I am having trouble breathing, okay, you numb part of my throat as well, and I'm having trouble breathing. That's telling the dentist, can you do something to help me? Okay.
Well, there is a difference between I am having trouble breathing,
yes,
and the body is having trouble breathing.
See, that's confusing for me, because what it sounds like you're saying is, okay, when you're saying that, then on a conceptual level, or even on a reality level, saying this, okay, well, I'm consciousness, so I'm not really, the body's having trouble breathing, but I don't really have a problem because I'm consciousness. So I don't.
It's true, right? That's what I'm saying. You don't have any problem as consciousness. This does not mean that you are not going to do your best to restore the balanced breath or balanced breathing to the body.
Okay, so if somebody says to me, but you're not your body or mind, it sounds like you don't have to worry about it. Okay.
No. I mean, the fact that I am not my car does not mean that I'm not going to worry about my fuel gauge being on empty. Of course, I am going to be looking for the closest gas station.
Yeah. Okay, so both, in a sense, I think that's what gets confusing for me, in a sense, because it's like, okay, so knowing that you're not the car but also doing the fuel. Both, I see what you're saying. Both are happening, but
I am not the car is very significant because
yeah,
it removes the psychological. If something is happening to the car and we experience that something is happening to me, then we're in trouble, because sooner or later something even worse is going to happen to the car in 20 years, 10 years, 5 years.
right. Yeah.
So it's quite significant, the understanding that I am not the car. Now, I am not speaking about a new belief. Let's adopt a new belief. I am not the car. If I am the car, then there is no interest in changing that fact. I mean, it's not about, let's adopt a new philosophy. I am not the body. No. Let us examine if we are the body, and if the conclusion of our investigation, if the conclusion of our inquiry is, I am the body, then we should all agree, because the evidence is there, that I am the body. So you have to look at your experience. Is the body something that you are, or something that you perceive? If it is something that you perceive, then you are the perceiving aspect of the body. You are the perceiving aspect of the car. You are the perceiving aspect of the oak tree. But you are not that which is perceived.
Right.
If your inquiry, your investigation brings you to the conclusion that I am the body, that I am that which I'm perceiving, then we will both agree that I am the body.
Okay.
Now, in the inquiry, in the non-dual inquiry, the first step in our inquiry is, I am the reality which perceives, and I am not that which is perceived. I perceive the tree, I perceive a thought, I perceive a sensation within the body, I perceive a toothache, I perceive a memory. I am the perceiving element, the perceiving aspect. I am not that which is perceived. That is the first understanding in the non-dual inquiry. The second understanding in the non-dual inquiry is that whatever I perceive, whether it is an image, a thought, a sensation, a memory, whatever I perceive, is not separate from the perceiving element. In other words, the second understanding is that which is perceived is not separate from the perceiver.
Right.
And therefore, they are not two, which brings us to the conclusion that, in fact, while the first understanding brought the understanding that I am not that which is perceived, the subsequent understanding is, in fact, although I am not that which is perceived is not separate from the perceiver. That brings a certain conundrum. There is a certain conflict here. It seems like the previous understanding and the subsequent understanding do not jive, but they do.
Right.
They do jive. And the way they jive is as such, which is the third understanding. I want to put them in these steps. Third understanding is that I, which is the perceiving element, perceive all perceptions
Right.
I am not any of these perceptions. And yet all these perceptions are not separate from me. I am all perceptions, but I am not defined by any particular perception. In other words, everything is myself. I am not a thing. I am not a particular thing. I am everything. And being that I am everything, the totality, I am not a thing, I am nothing. So there is the I am not that which I perceive. Then there is that which I perceive is not separate from the perceiving. And then there is everything that I perceive is my very self. A good metaphor of that is in your night dream. In your night dream, you dream of a pink flying elephant. But when you wake up, you realize, I am not a pink flying elephant, right? But yet, the pink flying elephant of your night dream is not separate from you. It's not separate from you. Your dream images are not separate from you. But all your dream images are not separate from you. Not just the pink elephant. All of your night dreams are not separate from you. You are the dreamer of all dreams. You are the perceiver of all dreams. These dreams are not separate from you. They are your very self, but none of them defines you. Your dreams do not define you. Another good metaphor is the waves and the ocean. All the waves are made out of the ocean, made out of water. But the waves do not define the ocean, although the waves are not separate from the ocean. The waves do not define the ocean. No particular wave defines the ocean. Waves do not define the ocean. The ocean is undefined. It manifests as waves, and it does not manifest as being. So it's the Shiva and the Shakti aspect. The Shiva aspect of consciousness is the unmanifest, the peace, being. And the Shakti aspect is movement, activities, thoughts, sensations, perceptions, toothaches, breathing issues. That's the Shakti aspect of consciousness, of Shiva.
Okay. Today, I understand. I've heard all those concepts. Okay.
Not a concept. No, wait. I have to double check in your experience. If it's a concept, I'm not interested. I am not interested in concepts. I am talking about experientially. When you perceive these glasses, do you conclude that you are these glasses? The answer is no, I am not these glasses. So that's not a concept. Secondly, these glasses, the perception of these glasses, is the perception of these glasses, the perception separate from you? No, experientially, if you look at that, you will conclude, no, I am not separate from this perception. This perception is not separate from me.
Right.
The third question is, does the perception define me? If you take a look at this question, not the concept, but this question, if you take a look, you will arrive to the conclusion that no, this perception doesn't define me. So I'm not talking about concepts. You said you've heard all these concepts, then John, you need to take a look at your own experience so that we're no longer referring to concepts, but you are talking about your understanding, your grasping what we are sharing here.
Okay, I just heard you, and I understand what you're saying. As far as I know, I understand what you're saying. I will give you an example of today. I did what some people might call a meditation or something. I learned it in the Christian, it's called centering prayer. And the idea there is that I'm silent. And in their case, they did have a focal point. It's sort of like a Zen sitting. And there is no attachment to, you don't, you allow all sensations, thoughts, perceptions, et cetera, come and go as they do. There's no other way that it happens. It's seen, okay? And it's seen by the background. It's seen by consciousness, okay? Or by the absolute, however one wants to call it, okay? So it's known, okay? It's, that is very, and you see that. And so there is that experience of that it's all appearing and disappearing, except for some, I'm going to call it something, but except for something that does not, okay? And that's very real. It does not, okay? And we call that consciousness, or we call it the absolute. And I get in whatever names one wants to call it. I also like it's the inactive. It's the inactive. It's not the activated, like all the action. It's not it's not any of those things. It's the absolute, and so that's the peace. And there is peace and quietness. It appears to be in that as well, because there's no activity in that. It's just it's a background, and there is a peace there. And so now that's there, okay. And so that's one thing that has, and I did actually do that today. Now I guess my question is, when one is in the dentist chair, when one is in a dentist chair, is one coming down on the flight. I also remember coming down on a flight once, and it hit the ground pretty roughly, and the heart went up through the throat and everything else. Okay. So now, as a friend of mine said to me once, was, where's your non-duality there? Okay. And that does come up, because somewhere along the line, I guess I think that I'm supposed to say everything is fine.
Well, how does a feeling of hunger create ignorance? Let's say you're starving, you haven't eaten.
Ask me that question again. I'm sorry, I didn't understand it.
How does extreme hunger signify ignorance or duality? How a toothache does not mean, if you're going, ouch, it's really hurting, does not mean ignorance. It simply means there is a sensation on board, knocking loudly on the door, saying, please take me to the dentist. So somebody who asked me, where is your non-duality right now? I would tell them, you have no understanding about non-duality. You are believing that non-duality means a blank state where there is a toothache and I'm not feeling the toothache, or there is hunger and I'm not feeling the hunger. Well, you won't live for too long if you're not feeling the hunger. That body will die. The body has its needs. And when the plane hits the tarmac very loudly and the heart goes up to the throat, this expression, it's how the body is reacting to being jolted. It reacts in order to safeguard itself the best it can. Well, good luck. You don't have much power over a plane crashing, but the body does what the best it can. It's wired to ring the alarm bells. When you get a cut, you feel pain, and this pain calls your attention
Right.
to the wound. Without the pain, the body would bleed to death if the wound is serious enough.
Right.
So the pain is how the body is wired intelligently for its well-being and maintenance of its survival as best as possible. So
Right.
your friend who is telling you, where is your non-duality right now, is confusing normal world, body, mind events. He's confusing them with,
Well, here,
with the piece of being.
okay, I think there's two things. Well, one thing I do want to say, my answer to him was when he asked the question, where is non-duality? And I said, well, my understanding then, and also some just the knowing this is that it's everywhere. There's no such thing as not non-dual. There's only one. It's all here. So there's no such thing. Okay, so where's your non-duality? It's not a separate piece of something. Okay, so I told him it's everywhere. It's sort of like the God is everywhere. Okay, but the other thing is, I guess I think, this is thought and this is mind or whatever, I guess I think that I should be, which is the thought, the mind, the body, I guess, is that I should be in some special place. Well, I'm hitting the tarmac. Well, something is happening that's threatening the body and so forth and so on.
Well, you see, the thing is, we imagine that the non-dual understanding is some sort of state of the body and the mind.
Yeah.
But the non-dual understanding is not a state.
Right.
States of the body and the mind appear within consciousness, within awareness.
Right.
The understanding about being, about presence, about our true nature affects the mind. It brings the mind to peace. It affects the body. It relaxes the body.
Right.
But it is not a relaxed body. Doesn't mean self-knowledge. You could be lying down on the beach having a very relaxed body and even a relaxed mind because you're sort of drowsy.
Right.
This doesn't mean that you are free from the sense of separation. There may be a temporary experience of peace and relaxation. You're on the beach, you relax and so on.
Right.
For the time being, all is well. But suddenly some kid is running around and kicks some sand on you by accident. And you become very irritated. There's just this little kid with stupid parents who are not watching over their kid as they should, has messed up my beautiful, tranquil, peaceful time on the beach. I was about to fall asleep. So we confuse a certain state of the body and state of the mind with the peace, the peace which bypasses the body and the mind.
See, I still am lost there, and I won't bother you anymore with this because maybe I'm just will not get it until I get it.
What?
But I'm still lost on this because, because if one is established, I mean, and you hear these stories, well, I'm not the body, the mind, so it doesn't, a Jnani doesn't doesn't have I'm not the body, I'm the mind, so it doesn't really matter. So there's this peace, there's this inner peace somehow, even in the circumstances or the disturbance. Okay, and I think that's what the person was asking me. Where's your non-duality? Where's your peace? Where's your
and Jnani will be disturbed by the little child who is running around and kick the sand on him or on her.
Yeah.
But this disturbance won't have much to it. It's a slight disturbance, and you are back to the peace. And then, if it starts raining, the Jnani will be disturbed. Oh, gee, I came to the beach, is enjoying it now. But it won't have much. It'll be okay. Let's quickly go to the car. It'll be. So the difference between being identified and being free of identification is that when you're identified, on some occasions, you experience the peace, the happiness, and then back to, the dumb drolls of life, While when you are not identified, you're experiencing, you are not experiencing the unhappiness. On occasion, there are moments of being irritated by the kid throwing sand at you by accident. Right. On the surface, it all looks the same. But in the Jnani is fluid like the wind. It's fluid. When we are identified, we are more like a storm with moments of calm. So on the surface, it all looks the same. When you are hungry, you feed the body. If you are identified or not identified, you need to take care of the body. When you are relaxing on the beach and somebody throws water on you, whether you're identified or not identified as a body, there is a moment of irritation. It's normal. But there isn't a retention of the me. Why did they do this to me? And how stupid the parents are, and darn, I'm never going to come to this beach again, blah, blah, blah. It's more, it's just like that, moment of irritation, gone. You see. It is a mistake to think that sages don't get irritated. No, because they are humans. There is a human body. Bodies get irritated. They get alerted when there is a loud noise. For example, you hear a sudden loud noise. Your body reacts in a certain way, and your mind is alert. What's the danger? Was it a bomb? Was it a car accident? Is it a crash? What's happening?
Right.
All of that. Exactly. You cannot use those examples to say, "Oh, where is your non-duality now?" That is silly. It's a misunderstanding.
Well, it is, but I guess I'm trying to see here is that then what's being said is that it's we can understand that there's no retention, there's no keeping of it. I mean, that's the body does that itself. Okay, in other words, something happens to the body. Typically, if it's temporary, yes, something happens. The nervous.
But psychologically, when we are identified, although the body wants to get rid of it because the body is just it doesn't want to maintain the contraction, Psychologically, we maintain the contraction. Oh, why did they do that to me? They shouldn't have done that.
Yes.
Where is
Yeah.
the lifeguard? Where is what kind of beach is this? They should charge admission. So it's psychologically we maintain what the body wants to get rid of. You are right. The body wants to release it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay.
But-
So what you're
but-
saying, go ahead.
As a
I
result-
just want to understand.
As a
from
result
my-
of ignorance and as a result of identification, we don't let it go.
Okay. I see that. The psychological is the storyline, et cetera, the image, the imagination, the or whatever. Okay. I understand that. And that's why I asked about, landing on the landing and the fear, the body is fearing that it's going to be the end. Okay. A tsunami comes on the beach there and now the Jnani is being flooded and drowning. Okay. All right. So that stuff's going to happen. Okay. So, and what we're saying is it's just a psychological, so in other words, for instance, for the Jnani that's drowning now, if he doesn't drown, he's not going to carry that stuff with him later. Okay.
The body is drowning.
Yes, the body is drowning. Okay. And so therefore the Jnani is struggling to survive.
Well, we are the managers of the body. If we notice that the body is sick or ill or is in danger,
Yes.
automatically we are going to take care of the body the best we can.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So it's just as it's happening, that's happening. But I guess what
The fact that we are taking care of the body does not imply, we should not arrive to the conclusion that because we are taking very good care of the body or the best care we can of the body, you should not conclude that therefore we are the body.
Well, I understand that. Yeah, I understand that.
We
I guess-
we take the best care of our car when we're driving on the highway. We're really careful to the speed, staying in our lane, putting the signal when we want to make a turn. We're very alert to the driving. This does not mean that we are the car or that we are the body. This is how you drive the car the safest possible way in order for safety, to avoid any crash and to avoid any harm for yourself and for others.
Okay. Here's the last thing I'll say then, to maybe have you understand that. Maybe I'm just not getting stuff. I saw some. So I guess what I think is, for instance, the body is going to struggle to survive in most cases. In some cases it will decide to surrender, but in most cases it's going to do what it does. It depends on each body, and maybe the mental state, and maybe the understanding, non-dual understanding also affects it. So, and I think that's probably what I'm talking about, is because what I'm hearing sometimes from others is that you shouldn't, you should just be resting and being everything's fine and everything's perfect. And in a way, you can say that, okay, but it's not true for the body, okay? When a tsunami's there and the water's washing over you and you're now drowning, in the big picture, you can, and you may know this, okay, that everything is okay, everything is well, okay. You might even know that, but in most cases, the body's going to be washed. The mind's going to be there trying to survive and help the body.
Yes. You see, resting as being is just when we do the meditations, for example.
Yes.
It's just an experiment.
Yes.
For you to experience your true nature
Yes.
without referring to false sensations, perceptions, just to dive
Yeah.
into true nature, experience the true nature. It's an experiment. We don't
Yeah.
live our whole life in the meditation, in resting as being.
All right.
No, we need to drive to work. We need to work. We need to respond to email. We need to interact with the neighbors. We need to go down to the market and choose which vegetables we want to etc. There are all sorts of activities, the Shakti aspect of life. But as you visit in meditation and in your contemplation, in these discussions, when you visit being, when you experience the peace of being,
yes,
which resides, which is your true self.
Right.
As you experience, whichever way you experience it, whether via meditation or having a discussion together.
Right.
And for a moment, you experience the peace of being, the true nature. It's a glimpse into truth. And this glimpse is a visit to God. You are visiting God and God is visiting you. And God's visit never goes unnoticed. It has an impact. Even after God's visit is over.
Yes.
God's visit, still something of the visit remains. But yes, there is a need to swim hard to get to the shore. We will swim hard to get to the shore. When there is a need to work hard to raise some funds for paying a debt we owe, we will do that. It has no diminishing effect on God's visit.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. So okay. So I feel like that then, okay, what I'm thinking is true, it's just that the body does do what it does. And I do understand the idea of what you just said, because even in the meditation or whatever one does, or the discussions or the understanding goes deeper and deeper, that the experience actually can become different, and one can experience a peace in turmoil and so forth and so on. Okay, because even in for instance, what I did today and what I've done in the past with this meditation is that it is the truth. It's the experience that everything is coming, going, and disappearing, and smaller and large and all that. But those are the perceptions and so forth and so on. But there is the I, that's the background or being or the ground of being. And one can see that without having to work at it really, except for doing the meditation, you could say, just doing that and being and resting in that. Because all of a sudden that happens, well, one would say during the day as well. And all of a sudden one can see that, oh my goodness, it is true. And that's the true nature. And, and that's the bigger thing.
Whenever you turn attention to being, you will find it right there.
Yeah. So it gets deeper. So, okay. So Thank you, Magdi.
It's done. Nice to
Appreciate it. All right.
Yes, Anisha.
So here we often use a word like called understanding. Understanding. We do understand. Understand. So does even understanding belongs to the part of Shakti? Like because Shiva is an unmanifested form. So, so who is the one who is understanding?
Yes, yes. So the short answer is no. Understanding is Shiva, belongs to the Shiva. Now, let me specify that there is two forms of understanding. There is phenomenal understanding and there is nominal understanding. Phenomenal understanding, for example, would be to understand how a diesel engine works, or to understand how to plant avocados. You know. Phenomenal understanding has to do with phenomena. Nominal understanding has to do with understanding itself. It has to do with reality, with being, with consciousness, with being. In both cases, in both the case of phenomenal understanding and nominal understanding, the process, there is a process towards the understanding. The inquiry process or gathering data, gathering information, asking questions. There is a mind process, activities of the mind that are the groundwork towards the understanding. But the moment of understanding, which is the culmination of various activities and inquiries and contemplations, the moment of understanding is not a process in time. The activities which lead to the understanding are in time. At the moment of understanding, there is a collapse of time, which is a collapse in the understanding. And post-understanding, the mind has been affected by the understanding and can conceptualize how it has been altered by the understanding. So there is a mind process, which is in time and space, that culminates in the understanding. And there is a mind process, which is also in time and space, which processes the understanding at the mind level. But understanding is nominal. The nominal is Shiva, and the phenomenal is Shakti. In the understanding about truth, about reality, there is grace, and there is love. Love for truth is inspired by truth itself. Truth visits the mind, shines onto the mind in a spark. And this spark ignites our interest in truth. And in time, our interest in truth blooms. And can no longer be contained. It becomes the guiding force in our life, our love for truth, which leads us to these sorts of meetings, satsangs here, which leads us to contemplation, to thinking about truth, to studying the scriptures and trying to decipher the hidden meaning. These activities, which are body-mind activities, directed towards truth, looking in the direction of the sun, have been inspired by a glimpse, a noumenal glimpse. It's been inspired by Shiva, Shiva's visit, brief visit. And lead us to remain on the path, which is the path of love, until we come to the complete not knowing. Because it's the process of shedding beliefs, shedding false notions. And as not knowing, we have done our best preparation. We have arranged the house, cleaned the house, put in the red carpet, prepared a nice meal. We've done everything that we can do for God's visit. And God is love, always with you as your love. God is your love for truth. The truth is your love for the truth, is the truth. It's always there accompanying you. And at some moment, it embraces you fully. And reveals to you that I am you, I have always been you, and I'm never leaving you because I don't know how to leave you. It's not possible for me to leave you. It's all grace.